Powered by the Montana Television Network. This is the 10 o'clock news on Q2, Montana's news leader.
Good evening and thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Jay Cohn. Janelle is off tonight. A home in West Billings considered a complete loss after a fire there this afternoon. This late afternoon fire forced the closure of Grand Avenue in extreme West Billings for nearly 3 hours late today. The fire broke out at a home on the 7600 block of Grand around 4 p.m. today. By the time crews arrived, the house was fully involved. Crews had to immediately go into a defensive mode in an effort to keep the flames from spreading. Yellowstone County DES Coordinator Lieutenant Ken O'Donnell says the fire actually started with some mechanical work on a car, which then sparked a grass fire that quickly spread to the house. The homeowner was in the house while his friend worked on the car. Fortunately, no one was injured. However, O'Donnell says a cat appears to be missing. Firefighters from Molt and Billings responded to that fire. A polio-like disease making the rounds across the nation, now suspected in 2 Montana cases. Acute flaccid myelitis, or AFM, is suspected in 2 adults in Gallatin County. Nationwide, health experts are keeping an eye on this polio-like disease that has left dozens sick across the country. Many liken the symptoms of AFM to polio because patients are left feeling weakened or even in some cases paralyzed. John Ebelt with the Montana Department of Health did not release the age or the sex of the adults, but says in each case further testing is warranted. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has now confirmed 62 cases of AFM in 22 states. He says the last time Montana had a similar case was in 2015 when a young child was diagnosed with the virus here in Yellowstone County. Ebelt says the reason these cases are still suspected and not yet confirmed is because more testing has yet to be done by the CDC. Jake Collins, the Bozeman man who pleaded guilty to killing his wife with a frying pan in January of 2017, sentenced today to 105 years in the Montana State Prison. It was January 2017 when Collins initially told police he had not seen his wife Crystal since the two fought on New Year's Eve. Later, Collins admitted to striking his wife repeatedly in the head with a cast iron frying pan, then using a knife to cut her throat. Officers found Crystal's body in the bed of his truck, hidden inside a sleeping bag with bloodied pillows. The couple's children were at home during the attack. President Trump says he wants answers on what happened to missing Washington Post journalist Jamal Khashoggi. CBS's Angelica Alvarez tonight reports from the White House.
Secretary of State Mike Pompeo returned to the U.S. Wednesday night after his high-stakes trip to Saudi Arabia and Turkey.
I want to find out what happened, where is the fault, and we will probably know that by the end of the week.
President Trump had sent Pompeo on a fact-finding mission into the disappearance of Jamal Khashoggi. The Washington Post contributor was last seen entering the Saudi consulate in Istanbul on October 2nd. Turkish authorities believe Khashoggi was killed by a team of assassins from Saudi Arabia. Last week, President Trump vowed severe punishment if the Saudis were involved in his death. In recent days, Mr. Trump has repeatedly noted their denials and warned against a rush to judgment.
I'm not giving cover at all. With that being said, Saudi Arabia has been a very important ally of ours in the Middle East.
The calls for patience from the White House have been ignored by some Republicans in Congress.
I think he's dead, and I think the Saudis killed him.
Louisiana Senator John Kennedy said even close allies have to be held to account.
This kind of conduct is unacceptable, and it undermines the sovereignty of Saudi Arabia in the court of public opinion. Now, that doesn't mean we have to blow up the Middle East.
On Wednesday night, the Washington Post published what may have been Khashoggi's last column. The newspaper says it received it the day after he went missing. One of its lines reads, "Arab governments have been given free rein to continue silencing the media at an increasing rate." Angelica Alvarez, CBS News, the White House.
The Saudi government has denied any involvement in Khashoggi's murder. The kingdom says it's conducting its own investigation into what happened. In Montana's races for the U.S. House and U.S. Senate this election year, immigration and national security are key issues that both Republican candidates are emphasizing. Tonight, in the first of a 2-part series, MTN's Mike Dennison zeroes in on what the candidates are saying in Montana's House race.
Greg Gianforte says one of his top priorities has been securing the U.S. border and rebuilding the military.
We had planes that couldn't fly, men and women in uniform without the resources they need, and they also needed a raise. So we gave them the largest raise they've had in 9 years.
He also says he supports President Trump's 4 pillars of immigration reform, which include building a wall on the southern border, providing resident status for those brought here as children by immigrant parents, and ending some visa lotteries. Gianforte voted for 2 immigration reform bills in June that contained some of those elements, but both bills failed to pass the Republican-controlled House.
It's also important that we secure the border, because not only from an immigration perspective, and I'm a fan of legal immigration, but we need to end this illegal immigration, because it's has a negative effect in our communities. It's bringing crime across the border.
One of Gianforte's first campaign ads this year took after his Democratic opponent, Kathleen Williams, on immigration, suggesting she supports open borders, amnesty for illegal immigrants, and abolishing immigrations and custom enforcement. Williams says those claims simply aren't true and don't describe her position at all.
I don't know where he got that, because I have continually said that I support strong borders that function for trade and tourism, that are strong and against illegal trafficking of drugs and humans and weapons.
She says young adults brought here as kids by immigrant parents should have a path to citizenship, and that while borders must be secure, the U.S. should have some compassion in its immigration policies. Williams also was critical of President Trump's foreign policy, saying it's undermining long-standing alliances and democratic principles.
Being the daughter of a World War II veteran and wife of a Vietnam-era veteran, and I'm just very concerned that inconsistent foreign policy is not helping us at home or the future of the world.
We'll probably hear more about these issues directly from President Trump when he visits the state on Thursday. Also tomorrow, we'll take a look at how these issues are playing out in Montana's high-profile U.S. Senate race. Reporting from Helena, Mike Dennison, MTN News.
Mike reminds us that Libertarian Eleanor Swanson is also on the ballot in this House race. She says, as far as immigration is concerned, we need strong borders, but should allow more immigrants to come here legally when properly seeking asylum. In just 20 hours from now, President Donald Trump will be in Montana for a 3rd time this year. Air Force One scheduled to arrive at the Missoula Airport tomorrow around 6:10 p.m. And a reminder, you can watch the president's visit on our sister station, the CW. The president expected to begin addressing the crowd in Missoula around 6:30 tomorrow evening. We'll also have a full recap for you on the news at 9 on the CW, plus on tomorrow's 10 p.m. news here on Q2. On to the weather scene. It's been a year of extremes. Chief Forecaster Bob McGuire joining us now with a look at how we stack up so far as precipitation this year, Bob.
Yeah, you know, it's been kind of a dry week so far. Our projection is going to be a little bit drier as we go into next week. So we thought we'd take a look at this. Would be a good time to see, well, how are we doing in precipitation so far in the south central Montana and northern Wyoming? And so here are the figures we found. As you can see, Billings, we've been doing very well. We're at 1767, only need to be at 1209 to be caught up to average. And look at how far ahead of last year we were. That was 1426. Miles City, though, look at that. They're almost as ahead of normal as we are, but they're about 3 times ahead of what they were last year. Livingston, they're just barely ahead of last year and a little bit ahead of their normal. And Sheridan, they're at 1572. Last year they were at 1592. They're actually a little bit behind, and as you can see, but they are still ahead of normal. We're getting into a very dry spell for about another week or so. We'll see what happens, see if we can get more moisture in here. Always we can use more moisture, but look like right now we're doing okay without it for a little while. Jay?
All right, thank you very much, Bob. Well, we're looking for a night of magic here in the Magic City. Montana illusionist Jay Owenhouse making a couple of stops in Billings this week. It's part of his Dare to Believe tour, and yes, his rare Bengal tigers are here with him as well. Tonight he performed down at the Rimrock Mall, and he'll perform again Saturday at the Alberta Bear Theater. We're learning his show really is a family affair. On the tour bus with him when he pulled into town tonight, his 3 kids, 2 dogs and crew. That also includes his world-famous twin tigers, who also appear on stage with him. He says this year they decided to make a special stop in Billings and perform a timeless Houdini trick.
Coming to Billings, it's our 3rd time that we've done the show here in the last 6 or 7 years, and we wanted to do something special this time. And this year we really kind of focused on kind of creating more awareness among the younger generation about Houdini and really what he accomplished.
As for the world-famous tigers, Owenhouse says it's a priority for the tigers to have 20 days a month in their sanctuary in Bozeman where he lives. There are 2 shows Saturday at Alberta Bear, the first beginning at 4 p.m., the second at 8. Still to come on tonight's 10 o'clock news, Montana's trailhead is working to become a destination itself as visitors make their way to the state. We'll show you how coming up. Plus, a new crop of cowboys and cowgirls are growing up. We'll check out how the Nile is helping. And in sports, Wednesday night football, Scott shows us who closes the regular season with victories.
You're watching MTN News with Jay Cohn and Janelle Slade. Storm Tracker weather with Bob McGuire. And sports with Scott Green. This is the 10 o'clock news on Q2, Montana's news leader.